Greetings, BArcadians, and welcome to another episode of the BA News Show. What you don't know is we've just done this and we're having to redo it because of technical difficulties. So if we're a little bit fed up and subdued, that is the reason why. Before we get cracking, please go right now and hit that like button because it really helps to grow and support the channel. So do it now. But just to let you know, we've got 4 items in today's show. We've got Ubisoft seemingly confirming the extent of Nextgen backwards compatibility. We've got an exciting / dodgy sounding PS5 patent. We've got Naughty Dog announcing that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be playable at the end of the month at PAX East in Boston. And then finally, BioWare have informed us that Anthem is going to get a major rework. So, before we dive into the news, Rich, tell us what you've been playing this week, and for me, a second time.
So, I've mostly been playing Gran Turismo. I've only been playing Gran Turismo this week, Gran Turismo Sport. Still trying to win some races, still unsuccessfully finishing seconds and thirds. I have gone up to a C-rated driver now, which means I'm racing against even better people. So yeah, it's going. Not well, but it's going.
We mentioned before, didn't we, that it's like the carrot on the stick that you've been chasing, and now you've gone up in class due to matchmaking. You know, it's probably a little bit frustrating, isn't it, in that respect?
It is, but it's a good system, to be fair, the way it matchmakes. You tend to be with people of a sort of similar level to you.
I suppose you start at the bottom of the class and then you're working your way up to, teacher's pet before you graduate to the next class.
Absolutely. What about you, mate? What have you been playing?
I have had a little bit of time on the lads' weekend to dive into Dead Cells, which was famous really for former IGN presenter Philip Mewson. He got busted for plagiarising a review of that game. But no, it's essentially like it's got a lovely old school pixelated look to it, and I think what they call a roguelite game, or roguelike game. Correct me if I'm wrong, BArcadians, let me know. But yeah, really enjoyed it. It was 5 or 10 minutes of just kind of hack and slashing and enjoying the charming graphical style. So I believe it's going for fairly cheap on the Nintendo eShop, so I might take a look at that and purchase it. Nice little game, just almost between games to enjoy. So, yeah, just on the GT stuff, Rich, before we move on, do you want to just tantalise the BArcadians out there with some upcoming content?
Yes, so we have a workout video planned. So picture tabs on a bike and a Top Gear race. Stay tuned. Yeah,
we're planning a Top Gear style head-to-head, and I'm the unfortunate SOB, which is having to jump on the saddle. So we'll see how that one goes. We're hopefully be entertaining for everybody out there.
Absolutely.
So let's arrive rapidly at the first item in today's news. So we've got Ubisoft via CEO Yves Guillemot, who apparently in a recent financial call said that of next-gen consoles, those consoles will be running almost all the back catalogue of the previous consoles. So seemingly, to add to the rumours we've already heard, we're going to see backwards compatibility for both Sony and Microsoft's next-gen offerings. So presumably from PS1 onwards and for Xbox 360 onwards, which is very, very interesting. Rich, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think we need to see how this is done. Is this going to be a hardware or software solution to this? I know you're hoping for a hardware solution, aren't you, Tabs? But I think it's probably more likely it will be a software solution.
Yeah, because obviously for those BArcadians that may not know, hardware solutions tend to mean you can actually play the original media. So you can put in your old PS1 discs, PS2, PS3. Whereas a software, an emulation solution, presumably will mean they'll gatekeep the ROMs on a kind of PlayStation Store platform. We'll have to essentially rebuy all of the classics, which is very good in terms of commercial interest, not so consumer friendly, but there's swings and roundabouts. But at the end of the day, as we were talking on the last recording, Rich, I would love to dive into games like Vagrant Story again. Silent Hill, a lot of PS1 classics really. Would be really exciting to play.
And it's whether they offer us any. Are we going to see a bit of upscaling? Are we going to see better frame rates? What, you know, are we going to see sort of an ad hoc remakes of these games, so to speak, or sort of
higher res textures, or
exactly,
anything
yeah.
like that.
Well, are we going to see anything like that? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do here. And
if they do make us rebuy them via the PlayStation Store, as we talked about, then I would hope there's some sort of a boost mode. I don't want to see games totally remade necessarily, but if we could up the frame rate or the resolution, that would be interesting and kind of make it worthwhile rebuying it.
Absolutely, and it's going to be great to be able to maybe play some games you've missed out on, because that's 4 generations or whatever we're up to. But also, it's going to be nice to play some games that you have a lot of nostalgia for. It'd be great to go back and play the original Gran Turismo. I know, as you've mentioned, Vagrant Story for you. So yeah, it's really interesting to see what they do here, and I'm looking forward to hopefully the upcoming PlayStation 5 reveal, where we get a bit more information on this.
Well, this is it, and it might just open up a couple of hidden gems out there that are very difficult to find in the collector's market, that we might be able to just download now and get stuck in with, so that's exciting.
Absolutely.
What about this PS5 patent then, Rich? You tell us all about that.
So Sony have patented this interesting piece of tech, which is called AI assistance. Now, what this is aimed at is to help players that are stuck on games, and in essence, this is going to use like a machine learning AI to work out what needs to be done, what the player needs to do, how they're stuck, what needs to happen. And it's a really interesting piece of tech and could work incredibly well. I do have some concerns on this, because it sounds from what we've read on this that it's going to link to an online store. Now that suggests that in some way they're going to monetize this, which is unfortunately is the buzzword nowadays in gaming. Being one of the biggest entertainment industries in the world now, monetizing the hell out of it seems to be the order of business. But
it reminds me, Rich, of like a next-gen solution. Do you remember back in the day they used to have hotlines you could call up?
Yes,
I'm sure Nintendo had one. Yeah, and obviously you paid for it. It's like a next-gen solution to that, which is interesting. Sony have dressed this up as a very consumer-friendly piece of tech that's there to serve consumers who are spoilt for choice with mountains of different games, and as a helping hand to get them through those experiences without any major stalls. But I'm not so sure that there's some ulterior motives there, as you've said, Rich, in terms of monetization and otherwise. What about you?
I mean, this, for a casual gamer that likes to jump into a game, jump out of a game, not get too taxed by the game, I think this could be a really good thing, because the thing that put casual gamers on is really hard things. When they get to a really hard bit, it's like, forget it, I'll go on this thing I can just do, FIFA, more games that I guess are less involved, you can pick up, put down and that. So I think this could bring more casual gamers further onto these maybe more story or puzzle driven games. So I think there could be a good side to this.
That's true, actually, because I have played a few games myself where you may become unstuck from it for a few days, and if they're a bit complicated, they've got a difficult control scheme, or they're just difficult in terms to play, it can become a bit of a barrier for entry in that experience, and can lead to at times you just downing tools altogether. And certainly for a casual audience, well, I suppose it makes some of those games a bit more accessible, and will essentially allow them to enjoy the experience. So glass half full, certainly. I suppose the old school gamer in me, though, thinking glass half empty, is that I'm not a massive fan of hand-holdy things like this that kind of take the agency away from the player. I'm a big proponent of games that challenge you, and you have to test your mettle, essentially. But it's the accomplishment at the end of that, by virtue of that challenge, which is all the more satisfying because of it. And I think they make for some of the richer and more rewarding gameplay experiences. But each to their own, I suppose.
Absolutely, and we don't know how this tech will work, so it'll be interesting to see how it's implemented and whether it will be monetized. So it's interesting, but nevertheless, move us on, Tabs.
Third item, so Naughty Dog have announced that The Last of Us Part 2 is to be playable at PAX East in Boston at the end of this month. So that runs from...
Book the flights, I'm booking the flights. I'm booking the flights tabs.
We did talk about it, didn't we?
We did.
We've got some content coming up for The Last of Us Part 2 actually, so stay tuned for that, BArcadians. And
it may have a skit in it, which we've already filmed.
Indeed, and yeah, just it will hopefully bring a few smiles to your faces out there, BArcadians, much to Richard's humiliation. We'll say no more, but just wait and see. So anyway, yeah, PAX East running from February the 27th until March the 1st, and they've announced the first public hands-on for The Last of Us Part 2. A specific section of the game, which is called Patrol, which I understand a lot of the games journos behind the scenes have already seen or perhaps played on. And it's centred around Ellie and Dina as they leave Jackson to find and eradicate infected, I suppose on a patrol mission, if you like. So yeah, very excited. Can't wait to see some gameplay videos and coverage on that. If you're lucky enough to go there, BArcadians, please shout us out in the comments, and we'd love to hear what your experience is like. But apparently this is something of a nod for Naughty Dog, because the original Last of Us was held during PAX East in Boston way back in 2013. So nice that they've brought that full circle. And before we move this one on, Rich, just so everybody doesn't miss out, if you've got a PS4, there is a free Last of Us Part 2 theme, which has been made by Naughty Dog and is currently doing the rounds. Really coolly, the lighting of the background theme is actually in sync with the in-game clock. So I understand it turns from day to night, as you observe. So yeah, we'll try and pop these codes up depending on what region you're in now, just so you can pause, grab it, and go and download it. I don't want to miss out on that. And Rich, last item of the day.
So it has come to light that Anthem is going to get a major rework. BioWare General Manager Casey Hudson announces this via a blog. He's says we're going to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful rewards. And anyone that can remember the Anthem game, it was deeply flawed. It was torn to pieces when it finally came out, not just for the fact that it looked nothing like the E3 preview that they announced, but it seemed just, like either very like button bashy goals. I don't mean that. I mean like the same goals over and over.
Repetitive.
Very repetitive in its gameplay loop, and I think that did not go down well with fans, basically.
I think there's also, Rich, quite a few articles that came out essentially pointing a finger at development hell, at headless leadership again. I'm quite sure I read that the name Anthem wasn't really slapped on it until the very last second. And as you say, it was graphically, visually downgraded. I think it was just rushed out. Has become a theme for these live service games, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and I think it's telling that he went on to say, and to do that properly, we'll be doing something that we'd like to have done the first time around, with a focused team with time to test and iterate, focusing on the gameplay first. Now, this just sounds like why did you not do this in the first place? Like, they're saying things here that seem so obvious that you should be doing them in the first place.
No, spot on. I mean, we were talking in the last recording, weren't we, that this is becoming a very worrying trend in the industry. We've seen games like Destiny, Destiny 2, No Man's Sky, The Division, Fallout 76, all live service games that have had, well, some serious scaffolding applied after release, and some of them, games like Fallout 76, for example, are still in that process of being made into something which is, really unrecognisable to what was first released, a broken experience with very little in the way of, customer satisfaction surrounding it. And I do think it is very worrying that developers or companies are imposing, the financial burden on gamers. It's really, it feels like a bit of a piss take, if I'm honest.
And it does seem like the games are this type of game are being released unfinished or seemingly, say, 90% finished, and the people playing it are almost like beta testing the game that's supposed to have been launched, and then with that feedback they're then adjusting the game and redeveloping the game to how it should be, and you think, well, surely all that should have been done before release, not after release.
They become beta, don't they? They become open source projects, dressed up and disguised as full fat experiences, to unwitting first time buyers. And I just think, it's one thing to announce a Kickstarter or to announce a beta and to be very clear with the audience, this is still a work in progress. We want to hear your feedback. We want to create this with you. But it's another thing to pretend that a game is, the finished article, and only for gamers to realise that it's a shell of a game that needs a lot of work still doing to it. And seemingly these companies are just, they're quite happily saying to their dev teams, as soon as it's serviceable, we'll get it out there. We'll get the money rolling in via monetization and microtransactions, and then we'll, over time, we'll carve out, we'll find our identity with it. Yeah. Shocking state of affairs, some might say, but I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit harsh. So anything from yourself, Rich, as a closing statement?
I think that sort of sums everything up, really. I mean, it's a real shame that we're in this scenario now where it's almost like business before the art, and I like to look at video games sometimes like that. The product is not the selling factor, it's making money from the product, and I get that it has to be a viable business, but if you make the right game that works well, it will sell better, it will be more widely received, and
exactly,
from that you
front
can
load
make
it
more
with
money.
Absolutely, front load it with passion and enthusiasm, and you're going to create a good game. And what will follow from that, as we've seen time and time again over the years, is it will be a popular game and people will buy it and gamers will enjoy it. You try and do it the other way around and monetize it on the front end, at the detriment of the actual experience itself. Well, you can see it a mile off, can't you? And it will be busted for the crock of shit it is. Excuse me, BArcadians. Within a heartbeat. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll nip this rant in the bud. And BArcadians, please do share your comments below. We would love to hear your take on the matter. We'd love to spark that conversation below, BArcadians. So please get writing in those comments and engage with us. And I think that's probably about it. As we said before, if you haven't already, and you're naughty if you haven't, drop us a like now. Really helps to grow and support the channel. If you love what you see from Rich and I, then please make sure you're subscribed and you ring that bell for notifications. And I think that's probably about it. Another one for the archives.
Stamped and completed.